So what are the keys to startup success? This would be helpful information to have if you're about to embark on a startup. So let's talk about failure. There are primarily three sources of startup failure in my experience. I've been building startups for over 25 years, and these are by far the three most common reasons why a startup business would fail. Number one, lack of customers. By far, this is the number one reason a startup would fail. The startup has somehow gotten it wrong and built something or is doing something that nobody cared about. Or maybe there were customers that did care about, but for whatever reason, the startup couldn't find them. But the honest truth is that nobody really wanted what the startup was building. So that's by far the number one reason. Number two reason is lack of funding. If you build a startup that requires funding, or you've structured the process in a way that you need capital to build your business, and it might be a great idea, customers might love it, but if you need capital and you can't get it, that could be a source of failure. And then the third source of failure is just disagreement among the co-founders. So the principals in the business, they either stop getting along, become dysfunctional, or most commonly just disagree on the direction of the company. And because they can't get on the same page, they decide to part company, and a lot of times that ends up killing the business. So interestingly, I've been mostly a solo founder, and as I was thinking about this presentation, it occurred to me that when you become a solo founder and you decide to self-fund your business, you've actually eliminated 2 out of 3 of the areas of risk. And I was reminded of this because I was working on a startup that did require funding, and really started to understand that, yes, when you add funding as a requirement, you've added additional risk. And so what I mean by that is any startup business has inherent risk to the business, which is primarily, do customers want this thing that we're creating, this product or service? And so that has a certain risk associated with it, whether you're going to be able to make that work. But when you add funding to it, you added an additional layer of risk. And when you decide to self-fund, it's counterintuitive, but in a lot of times you end up improving your probability of success by not getting funding, because you've eliminated the risk that you won't get funding. And then the other interesting thing about being a solo founder is that you don't have any risk of disagreeing with your co-founders, because there are no co-founders. Now you may be internally conflicted about something, but that's another topic. And so I realized when I was thinking about this video that as a self-funded solo founder, I actually eliminated 2 out of the 3 main areas of risk, and perhaps that's why I've had so much success building startups from scratch. Okay, so those are the sources of failure, something to think about. But really, at the end of the day, I have had a lot of entrepreneurs and students that have taken my course and I've mentored, and they tend to have a lot going on, particularly when they're new founders. There's just a lot of distractions happening. And what I've observed is that it's just important to understand that no matter what's happening when you're a startup, there's really only 2 things that matter at the end of the day. Number one, getting to product market fit. And we'll talk about in a second what that means. But finding a fit between the product that you're developing and selling and a group of customers that want to use this. So that's number one, getting to product market fit. If you can't do this, if you don't do this, if you fail to do this, you don't have a business. Okay, number 2, finding a scalable, repeatable path to customers. So a way to acquire customers into your business. That is the other critical thing that matters. To have a successful business, you need customers, you need paying customers in most cases. And so finding a way to get those in a scalable way, meaning it's profitable to acquire them and profitable to grow your business to the level that you want to grow it to. And then repeatable, meaning we can do this over and over and over again and get the same results. So those are really the only 2 things that matter. Literally everything else is a distraction. everything. And it doesn't matter, what your legal structure is, what your work plan is, like who you hire. I mean, these things are all secondary factors, and not saying they're unimportant, but it's important as a founder working at a startup to remember the two most important things: getting to product market fit, finding a scalable, repeatable path. And so prioritize appropriately. Okay, so getting to product market fit, what does this mean? I think this phrase was coined by Marc Andreessen, who's an entrepreneur, former entrepreneur, investor. He owns and runs Andreessen Horowitz. And so really all this is a consulting-like graphic that shows, okay, you've got the product up here, which includes the value proposition, the feature set of the product, what it does, what you can do with it, and the user experience, or another way to say it is a customer experience. So those are kind of three of the layers of the product that you're developing. And then the market is essentially just a group of customers that love this product or want to use this product. And so that includes the target customer, the particular segment that you're focusing on, and underserved needs, which is another way of saying it is unsolved problems. That's the way I like to describe it. So getting product market fit is finding the alignment between these two things and getting it to click into place, almost like two pieces of a puzzle that come together. So on the customer side, we call this problem validation, finding the customer. And, the key question we ask in that phase of the development process is, what problem are you solving and who are you solving it for? And that kind of covers the market side. And then the solution is, how do we know for sure customers love our solution? So we'll talk a little bit about that in another video. So let's talk for a second about finding a scalable, repeatable path to customers. This is the second of the most critical imperative things you need to do in building a startup. So what is scalable? Scalability is a term that I'd like you to become familiar with because it's super important. Okay, a path to customer enables the company to grow without being constrained by its available resources. Okay, that's one way to say it. It's like if you have a path to customers that's highly scalable, it means you can grow very quickly without requiring that many more resources. Another way to think about it is, what is the extra cost that we have to incur as a business to bring on one more customer? So if we are in an enterprise sales situation, let's say, and we're selling events and we're calling on companies, well, we first have to get a salesperson out there and train them and get them skilled and have that salesperson get into the company. It's very costly to kind of pay for the salary of this person. And then once we sell an event, we have to actually put all the event pieces together for that specific customer. So that would be an example of a business that's not particularly scalable. In contrast, a software business, let's say you have a software application that sits in the cloud and is available to customers through a web browser. And the system is working, it's been fully deployed and built. And so to add one more customer to that business, all we have to do is get the customer to sign up. So there's no extra cost in adding more software because the software has already been created, and just getting another user on the system, another login, is essentially zero cost. Now, you might have some costs in driving that customer to that site so they can sign up. But let's say in the case that the customer found your product through word of mouth. They heard about it through a friend, and so the friend told them, hey, go to this website and check out this product. And they do that. So you basically got free customer acquisition. They were able to sign up for no additional cost. The cost of bandwidth and hosting is basically zero for that one customer. So that's an example of a highly scalable business. So the way to think about it is, what are the extra costs that we incur to bring on one more customer? Okay, so that's scalability. The other element of scalable, repeatable, of course, is repeatable. So what's repeatable? Repeatability is just really simple. You do X and you get Y as an outcome, right? So a repeatable process is, I know that if I do these things, X, boom, 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 that Y will happen. So for example, if I have 10 prospects that are in my target customer segment, I know that I could call on 10 of them and 3 of them will buy my product. Okay. And then I go and I grab another 10 that are of the same type, and I call on 10 of them. And again, 3 of them will buy my product. So this is a repeatable business. You can do the same thing, you can provide the same inputs, and you get exactly the same output every time. So that's an example. So together, scalable and repeatable path to customers. And these are the factors that really determine how big your business can be and how quickly it can grow as a function of the resources that are required. So if it's not scalable and requires a lot of resources, it's going to be difficult to grow that quickly, versus if it's highly scalable and doesn't require a lot of resources, it won't take as long. And so that's an interest, something investors obviously are very focused on. And as a founder, something you should be focused on as well, depending on how big you want your company to be. Now, if you're just trying to create a small business that serves a small number of customers, scalability and repeatability process may not be that important to you. So the question is, how scalable does it need to be? And the answer is it depends. It depends how big you want the company to be. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so the good news is we have a secret sauce. I've taken everything I've learned in 25 years of building startups, and I put it into a process, a methodology that we call insight-driven iteration. And so the insight-driven iteration process covers both of these questions. So these red pie pieces here are part of our problem validation process, and the blue pie pieces are part of solution validation. So between the red and the blue, these are experiments that we run, and we're going to teach you how to run in this course, that allow you to find that product market fit. Again, the intersection, the joining between a group of customers and the product that you're developing. And then the third piece in these green pie pieces are the path to customers element. So finding paths to customers that are scalable and repeatable enough to meet your business objectives. So all you really need to do to cover these two important things is to follow the insight-driven iteration process. And if you can do that, the probability that your startup will succeed goes up dramatically. Now, somebody asked me once if I could quantify that. And after I built 5 startups that I bootstrapped to profitability, I had a conversation with Professor Kaplan, who is an entrepreneur professor in the Chicago Booth Business School. And I told him what I had done and the types of businesses that I created. And I said, what are the probability that any one of these businesses would be successful? Is it like 1 in 10,000? And he said, oh, no, it's not that bad. It's like 1 in 2,000. I said, okay, 1 in 2,000. So every time I created one of these startups, I had a 1 in 2,000 probability of success. That doesn't sound very good. But I did it 5 times in a row. So the probability of anybody doing that 5 times in a row is 1 over 2,000 to the 5th power. And it turns out that comes to 1 in 32 quadrillion. So creating 5 profitable startups in a row statistically has a 1 in 32 quadrillion probability of success. And I'm really glad I didn't calculate this at the beginning and only calculate it at the end. And so the reason I say that is I use this methodology to do it. So I think if you create a startup without this method, according to Dr. Kaplan, you have a 1 in 2,000 probability. So what's the probability of using this method? And I don't know for sure, but maybe the probability goes down to like 50% or maybe 30%. I think it's somewhere in that range. So to go from 1 in 2,000 chance to 1 in 2 chance or 1 in 3 chance, that's a big difference. And I've seen this in my personal experience using this method. I've also seen it in the entrepreneurs that have taken the course. So follow the process, trust in the process. Okay, hopefully this is helpful, and thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next video. Hey, if you found this video to be helpful, I encourage you to check out the Founder Dojo Basic Training Course and Community. Go to founderdojo.com, look for basic training, and check it out. I've taken everything I've learned over the past 25 years of building successful startups, and I put it into this course. You can learn how to discover unsolved problems, validate those problems with customers, how to build products and solutions that customers are going to love, and how to build a sustainable, scalable, profitable business model. It's everything you need to know about building a startup all in one concise course. And I think it's a must-have for anybody who's thinking of creating a startup business. In addition to the course, we also have a community where we gather regularly over group Zoom calls and do live Q&A and try to support each other in our journey to build successful businesses together. So if you're interested and you're thinking about it, head over to founderdojo.com and check it out.